Hey everyone, Gill Gross here, post-match. Carlos Alcaraz versus Lorenzo Musetti, Roland Garros 2025 semifinal. If you're not here for spoilers, click off the video in 3, 2, 1. Alcaraz returns to the RG final. He'll defend his title on Championship Sunday. Musetti retires early in the fourth set after dropping the third 6-love. So a disappointing conclusion, a match that was looking ultra competitive. In fact, if you were an Alcaraz fan, down the stretch of the second set, you were really, really nervous. But in the end, it's kind of a whimper of a finish as far as the drama went, in terms of how Alcaraz just pulled away. Then Musetti hurt his leg. It was either his groin or his hamstring. Hard to tell which. Just wasn't able to move all that well, and he pulled the plug. But I still think there's some relevant stuff to go over. And I want to start with how well Musetti started, because he was just phenomenal through the first two sets. And I want to just go over how he found himself in a position to potentially go up 2-0. Couldn't quite get it done at the end of the second set. Agassi was on the TNT broadcast, and I want to start here. Andre was unbelievable. What a tennis mind. He said before the match that he thought Musetti needed to play with more offensive intention early in the points, which is not Lorenzo's DNA. Musetti is not anxious to take control off of that +1 ball necessarily, or not anxious to hit aggressive second serve returns, or off of a missed spot on the first serve, take a big cut on that first serve return. Because Musetti is so confident in his ability to win rallies, it's like the Andy Murray situation. Why take a huge risk early if you're really confident in your ability to outmaneuver your opponent as the points extend? Against Alcaraz, a bit of a different animal in those extended rallies. And Andre was like, I think Musetti needs to try to hurt Carlos right away, and that's going to require a little bit of an adjustment in his regular intention and mentality on the court. And this ended up being really prudent from Andre, because that's exactly what Musetti did. So just the intent he was playing with on the first ball and on the return was really elevated, not allowing Alcaraz to get settled, not allowing him to have time to take the first big cut on the ball. And that was really effective. The second thing I noticed was a bit of a counter by Musetti, who had been getting beaten pretty badly in the ad-court, cross-court exchanges the last two times they've played in Rome and Monte Carlo. Felt Alcaraz was better on the drive backhand, doing more, finding more inside-out run-around forehands, and just kind of dissecting the Musetti backhand in some ways, and we'll get a little more into that later. The adjustment that I thought Lorenzo also made was more effort with the feet to create the maximum amount of forehands. And then again, you're not going to run around and play it neutral. You're going to run around and go big. So Musetti did the best job I've ever seen him do at using his feet to make forehands and gaining control whenever possible. I don't think he's normally a guy whose eyes light up whenever he has a chance to run around and hit a forehand, but that's how he was playing against Alcaraz. So many of Carlos's cross-court backhands were basically being made into Musetti forehands because of the extra effort Lorenzo was making with his footwork. He was also redlining the serve. Musetti up 5 miles per hour on average when TNT showed the stat, either end of the second set, start of the third set, not sure which. I think it was end of the second. So Musetti's regular first serve average, 119. He was up to 124 in this match, which is supposed to come with a trade-off. Like, that's a massive jump in speed. And Lorenzo was still above 70% first serves in set 1 and set 2. It came crashing down in the third set. He was below 50%, I believe. But the fact that Musetti was able to up the ante to that extent on his first serve, and he was not paying the price with more misses was really significant. There were several break points where Musetti landed big, damaging first serves, which really helped him in the opening couple sets. And he was up on the second serve average as well and wasn't double faulting. Did Alcaraz give Lorenzo some help? Absolutely. Carlos at 4-5 in the first set went 0 for 5 on his first serve. I think between the scoreboard pressure and how imposing Musetti was being with his forehand, Alcaraz just seemed to kind of feel the pressure in that moment. Scoreboard, Musetti being really lethal on any ball that was remotely attackable, and then Alcaraz goes 0 for 5 on first serves. And that was the cocktail that led to that fatal break of serve for Alcaraz at the end of the first set. Carlos also made some really bad mistakes on break points, and he was 1 for his first 5 on break chances. There was one first game of the match that was a really easy knockdown forehand for Alcaraz, and I think the anxiousness that you saw Alcaraz playing with for the first hour, 20 minutes of the match, you do wonder, would that have even been a thing had Alcaraz just made that simple attacking forehand in the opening game, gone up the break immediately, and suddenly he starts thinking, all right, great start. I've got it. I'm on it. Instead, he had to play from behind for the entirety of the first and the second set, and it did look like a pretty nervous version of Alcaraz. There was also a ball 4-all in the second set, neutral rally ball backhand wide. Like a very simple, unforced error. And also, you hate to miss a rally ball wide in general. It's one thing missing it long, but you don't want to miss it wide when you're not trying to do any damage. There were also some uncharacteristic sloppiness from finishing chances for Alcaraz. He was missing a lot on correct choices, which is rare. Normally when Alcaraz loses control of the error count, it's because he's just maybe trying to overpower the ball. He's overhitting, or he's forcing some attacks that aren't really there. A lot of the times, it comes down to his choices. I thought he was missing a lot of balls on the correct choices, which was odd. However, Carlos, after getting broken 6-5 in the second, goes to a tiebreak. The shooter's mentality, which is a kind of erotic phrase that I really love that he likes to use for Alcaraz. I think it's on point. The shooter's mentality was on full display because the forcefulness that Carlos brought to the second set tiebreak in such an important moment was really, really awesome. I don't think Musetti played a bad second set tiebreak. He made one really bad backhand unforced error. That was really the only poor mistake that Lorenzo made. But Alcaraz hit him off the court. Off the forehand side, off the backhand side, it didn't matter. It wasn't that Alcaraz was forcing attacks, but when he had green light balls, when it was there was zero holding back. There was not an ounce of tentativeness when Carlos had a chance to attack the ball in that second set tiebreak. It was full speed, full acceleration, and that made all the difference against Musetti, who, as an elite defender, is used to being really tough to deal with when he goes lockdown mode in a tiebreak and when he makes balls. But Alcaraz is a different animal, not only in his top line pace and what that looks like, but also in his confidence in deploying that top line pace in the biggest moments. And of course, sometimes it's not the pace, it's the finesse. I think he closed the set with a fake drop shot, changed to continental, chip, forehand, inside in. And that's the kind of stuff that, who's doing that on set point? It was 6-3. It wasn't 6-5, but still, who's doing that on set point? Nobody. And start of the third set, same thing. I felt Alcaraz went into that too good mode, overwhelming offensively, even against Musetti's quality of movement and defense, which is elite. And this is kind of what I talked about coming in, where a lot of the things Musetti does doesn't really bother Alcaraz like it bothers 99% of the tour. I don't think any defense is really bothersome to Alcaraz when Carlos actually puts it together and is attacking at his best. I think it's very similar to basketball. Like when 6'10" Kevin Durant pulls up with a hand in his face and it's perfect defense and he still makes it. It's like great defense, just didn't matter. And I think when Alcaraz is really stringing it together, that's how it is. If you allow him to attack, it's too good no matter who you are. Now, there is also a common pattern. The other thing I talked about pre-match is Musetti's variety probably not disrupting Alcaraz as much as it disrupts other opponents. And the biggest thing here was the backhand slice. The slice backhand for Lorenzo, which is, for my money, the best backhand slice in the world. I do think it's better than Dimitrov's. He was just getting hurt badly every single time he hit it. Now, the first point I want to make off that is I don't really think he was choosing to hit it very often. He was generally getting rushed into hitting it. Musetti's drive backhand, long stroke production, needs some time on the ball in order to produce that. So when Alcaraz is standing up on the baseline and hitting with a lot of pace into that backhand wing, perhaps opening the court with like a wide serve on the ball before or a forehand angle on the ball before, it becomes a matter of Musetti doesn't have an option. He has to slice. And it's usually fine because his slice is so darn good. But it's in these conditions against this opponent, it doesn't work. First of all, the conditions. He doesn't get that low skid through the court like he does on grass. The ball is just checking up. So it's losing all of its speed when it hits the court surface, and it's not staying as low. It's staying somewhat low. It's not like we're getting a high bounce here, but it's not scraping across the court surface like it needs to be. And then there's the opponent. There's a Carlos Alcaraz who, first of all, doesn't really ever hit backhands off of it. His runaround footwork is so quick, as soon as he sees that Musetti's slicing, he's on his bike moving to his left. And if it's cross court, that ball's traveling too slowly through the air. It never gets to Alcaraz's backhand. And now, once Carlos has it on his forehand, it is the best pace-generating forehand I've ever seen. Full stop. And he was going both ways effectively. When he was going inside out short angle, he was getting usually another slice. Sometimes he could approach off that ball. When he was going inside in, which was, I think, his preferred ball off of Musetti's slice, when he was taking the forehand inside in, he knew that he was getting a lot of finishes, but he also knew that Musetti was going to loop it high spinny cross court. Alcaraz would sit on that ball, take it early, and flatten that out on the rise generally. Shot that he started to time really, really well. But it was the predictability off that ball that Alcaraz was seemingly capitalizing on, cutting off the court, dominating court position. Again, as soon as Musetti hit the slice, he's basically on the retreat, on the defensive, running deep into his forehand corner or diving short into his backhand corner. I guess it's not the corner at that point. Diving short towards the backhand sideline or outside the backhand sideline. And then Alcaraz even started drop shotting off that ball. So that was a big deal to me. The fact that every time Musetti sliced, it was death. And that's an Alcaraz thing. It's a clay court thing. But I thought it played a huge factor down the stretch. Then Musetti hurt his leg and he lost his movement. I do feel like Alcaraz grabbed control of the match before Musetti got hurt. But I don't know that for a fact. I think that because I didn't notice anything wrong with Musetti until late in the second. But it could have been that he just wasn't showing it. Who knows? But it did look very similar to the Monte Carlo match where Musetti won the first set and lost the next two 6-1, 6-love because his legs couldn't take it anymore. Rome was a very different script. Musetti put up good resistance in the second set. But, might there be a little bit of an expiration on Musetti's ability to maintain the intensity that is required when he's playing against Alcaraz and just having to do, so much running? Potentially. Musetti's worked so hard on his fitness, though. His ability to do the running required to implement his style is really, really good. So I'd be hesitant to be critical in that respect. I'd be hesitant to be critical at all because I think Lorenzo showed a lot of great stuff. And then Alcaraz had a great stretch of tennis that was pretty unplayable. And then Musetti got hurt. And that's how I would kind of sum up the match. So Djokovic Sinner next. I'll do kind of a post-match and a final preview in the same show/video. And we've got that to look forward to. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.